All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. I'll be doing my analysis and predictions for the Thursday and Friday night games in college football. Kicking things off on a Thursday night. South Carolina State and South Carolina has actually been moved to this slate, 7 p.m. SEC Network due to the hurricane. It's in the area, but the high headliner on Thursday night, only a two-game slate. Utah State, BYU. I picked the Aggies to win this game last year, and it was a very tough, competitive contest. But if you remember, Tyler Allergy ran crazy, 220-plus yards, averaged like 10 yards per carry. They just couldn't slow him down. Utah State ended up being an 11-win team. This is a very fun game that happened on early on the season, but, completely different flip of the script this time around. Cougars 24.5-point favorites here at home, 60.5 over-under, 8 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN. The Cougars will look to take down in-state rival Utah State, whose offense has just been flat-out awful. Devin Tompkins last year, big-time playmaker for this offense, 1,700-plus yards for him. He departs along with three other wide receivers, and the offense has just completely stalled out since. I didn't think it'd be a problem. Still had Terrell Vaughn, who's pretty talented. Justin McGriff, he was a big-time contributor over his career. Brian Cobbs as well. And they've just not been good. Logan Bonner has looked awful, 15.5 points per game. They only had 10 against Weber State a few weeks ago. 8 picks, 6 touchdowns for Bonner, 188 yards per game, completing only 56%. Cooper Legacy's gotten involved a good bit. Only 17 attempts for him, but starting QB position's really up for grabs. It's been very shocking to see how much Bonner struggled after being one of the top quarterbacks in college football a year ago. At the Group of 5 ranks, he came into this year as one of the top at his position. I thought he was probably the second or third best in the Group of 5, but right now it's just been awful. 8 picks, though, have all come over the last 2 games. 3 against Weber State, and then UNLV had 5. He also had 300-plus in that game, completed 65%. It's been very odd. I don't know really what to say. Offensive line's obviously struggled a good bit. Just the lack of weapons from last year has really just deteriorated this offense, which is really shocking. Calvin Tyler, though, in the running game, only 140 yards per game for the ground attack, 3.7 yards per carry for the top running back in Calvin Tyler. He had 30-plus attempts against UConn in Week 1 because they were just so committed to running the football. I guess they kind of expected a big-time struggle from this running game, or from the passing game, rather, but, they haven't did much to help them out on the ground. So offense has been a big issue. BYU, obviously, they're still trying to figure things out on that side of the ball. They got dominated with great balance by Oregon, which was really shocking. They replaced they returned all 11 starters from a season ago. This is a unit expected to take some big strides, and I think they're certainly progressing a good bit. It's going to be another opportunity here to kind of just learn and continue to be better. Allowing 26.5 points per game, though, they're really still trying to showcase improvements on defense. Looking at the BYU offense. So I think Chris Brooks, he's going to have a strong game. Utah State, they really struggled to defend the run last year. That's carried over to this season. 5th nationally in tackles for loss, though. They still get in the backfield at a good rate because that was one of the things they did last year, 100-plus tackles for loss. 100th total defense. Really struggled to stop the run, though. Through the air, they've been a little bit better. I do like Jaron Hall in this offense, though. Chase Roberts, Gunnar Romney, they're expected to play. Puka Nacua still battling health. He's questionable. Keanu O'Neal's really stepped up. Big contributor last year. He's doing that so far. Leads the team in receptions and touchdowns. He also has on 14. He leads the team in receptions and touchdowns, 14 grabs. Isaac Rex, he's a problem as well at tight end. Like him, this is a passing game's really going to start to take shape when they get healthy because Nacua, he's great. He had a big Week 1, big opener there. Cody Epps as a freshman, he's getting involved. He's got a team-high 16 receptions. So this offense is really starting to take shape. I love Chris Brooks. He was a similar back to Tyler Allergy. Comes over 6'1", 230. So I was very excited for him. Only 161 yards per game on the ground for this ground attack. He had a great effort against South Florida, 300-plus yards there. It's been, tough sledding since. 83 against Baylor, 61 against Oregon, and then, they almost had 200 against Wyoming. Trying to get back on track. This is a great O-line for BYU. I think they're going to win this game. Not with ease, but I do think 38-14 is a very reasonable score. Because BYU, their defense is still progressing, like I said. I love what they have at linebacker. They're Ben Bywater, Peyton Wilgar, Max Tooley. He's really good. I expect guys like Malik Moore to keep growing in the second. But I think this should be a pretty interesting game. BYU trying to get back on track. They face a very difficult schedule. They get Notre Dame here in Vegas in a couple weeks, and then Arkansas is after that. So this is a bit of a tune-up game against a defense that's been kind of poor. But I do like Gervin Hall, Hunter Reynolds, very nice safety duo. Hall coming over from Miami. He's got 25 tackles, 27 for Reynolds and 2 picks. A duo of senior corners as well. So they have a veteran secondary that was actually really good a season ago. So I think they could definitely have something to say about this BYU passing attack, especially if they're not fully healthy. So they might struggle. I don't expect them to do that too much here at home, but that's certainly something to watch. Looking at the first Friday night game, Tulane, Houston, 7 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN. Over-under is 55.5. Houston's been a big puzzle this season. You look at their offense. Tune, near 250 yards per game. Clayton Tune, that is 7-3 touchdown to pick ratio. The running game's been solid, 145 per game. Not sure if Brandon Campbell's going to play in this contest. Tazon Henry's been really good, though. They didn't show up against Texas Tech running the ball. Held to under 90 yards in that contest. But they're not really dishing the ball out as much as you'd think. Nathan Daly's not getting nearly as much attention as he should from this offense. 25 recs, 380 yards and 3 scores. Those are some good numbers through 4 games, but no one else has really stepped up a pass catcher. And you mix that with Dell not getting as many touches, only 6.3 receptions per game. That's kind of shocking. You expect those numbers to be a lot higher. Should definitely be at double figures, no doubt. But Tazon Henry, the running back, he's the next best receiver. Matthew Golden, true freshman, 11 grabs, 146. He's right there with Henry as well. And then it's kind of a drop-off. Joseph Manajak, he does have 10 receptions, but hasn't did much with them. He did have a great grab for a touchdown in week 1, but Keyshawn Carter's not gotten involved like I thought. Christian Trahan, only 5 grabs. It's been a very strange offense. The O-line's obviously still very poor, just as bad as it was last year. And on the other side of things, the defense has been just not good one bit. We expected them to take a step back, but nearly 36 points per game allowed so far. And they've also dropped 2 games. Lost a handful of starters, so we expected this part of the unit to struggle, that being the secondary. But, 121st in pass defense is very shocking. So I really expect this D-line to do more heavy lifting than it has. I think Derek Parrish and DeAnthony Melton are doing everything they can. Parrish, 8.5 tackles for loss, 4+ sacks, 4 TFL for Melton, 2 forced fumbles. And now they turn around and face a Tulane team that ranks first in college football in pass defense. The pass rush has been pretty horrendous, only 4 sacks in 4 games. And they have played some easy opponents, but they did hold Kansas State to 10 points and 150 yards. That's a team that just clubbed Oklahoma. So obviously that secondary isn't that fluky. It's a strange win that they had against Tulane, but it still happens, so we can't ignore it. Dorian Williams, a linebacker, he's great. Macon Clark at nickel, one of the few vets in the back end. Third down defense has been great. 7th in college football, speaking of the Kansas State game, 2 of 15 on third down. That's a really good offense they held in check. Looking at the Tulane offense, Michael Pratt, he's played well. 903 yards, 7 touchdowns, 3 picks, much like Tune. Dual threat guy, nearly 150 yards rushing. They've also generated some big plays in the passing game, like Shea Wyatt, Jaquan Jackson. They're pretty deep at pass catcher. Their production's really spread out pretty well. And the offensive line, mainly on the interior, has some really good size. Prince Pine, the left guard, transfer, 6'5", 345. Should be a fun matchup on the interior, see how he does against guys like Jones and Melton. I took Tulane last year in this game, and they disappointed. They got flat out beat badly, like 30-point loss, I believe. I think I'm going to take them here, though, again, and just get off the field. I think they're going to hold up well in the secondary, have some big plays of their own downfield, and they're going to win this game. We'll go 31-28. It's a big opportunity for Houston to bounce back because they've just been flat out pathetic, poor, nothing like we expected this year. I want to see Tank Dell get the ball more. I want to see the defense perform better in that front 7 because they're certainly capable of it. But it's been a very shaky start to the season with losses to Kansas, Texas Tech, and the 2 wins against UTSA and Rice have only coming by a couple of points each. So it's been a very shocking start to the season for Houston. Looking at UTSA versus Middle Tennessee, the Blue Raiders fresh off a upset win over Miami, a big-time game there. They went on the road to the 305 and, absolutely scorched that Miami defense. UTSA, though, their offense is also red hot. Frank Harris, 327 yards per game through the air, 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns, 2 picks. Very great start to the year. He's really developed so well from 2 years ago where he was not very good. 3 different wide receivers have 27-plus receptions for around 400 yards each. They're really spreading the wealth. DeCorian Clark, Joshua Cephas, Sakari Franklin. These guys were all big-time pass catchers for them a season ago, and they're picking up right where they left off. So not shocked one bit to see the production being spread out like it is. The running game has taken a big dive, though. Sincere McCormick, of course, departs after a handful of really great years. Only 127 yards per game. Traylon Smith, I figured he would be the top impact transfer in this conference in 21 attempts for 82 yards. Really has not did much for this football team. He's getting about 10 attempts a game, though. He's only played in 2 games as well. I'm not sure what the status is on him, but, he didn't start the year off great anyways, so Brendan Brady, though, he's a senior who's gotten involved. 206 yards and 3 touchdowns for him. The offensive line, they're kind of underachieving for what I expected from them. They have great size on the interior line. All 3 starters are 325-plus pounds. They got some big beef on the interior. And the Middle Tennessee D-line doesn't match up well in terms of size, but they've been good. 22nd in run defense, only giving up 93 yards per game. Second national is 16 sacks. Marley Clark has been phenomenal. Jordan Ferguson, those guys have been the leaders up front. Ferguson was elite last year, put up some insane numbers. The secondary has been really stressed this year for Middle Tennessee, though. Now they face this dynamic passing attack, and that leads you to the offense of Chase Cunningham that's averaging 34 points per game. He's got 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 3 picks. The run game has been lackluster as expected. It's been like that the last couple of years. Big passing plays really carried them versus Miami. They had like 3 of them. They were 70-plus yards, I believe. It was just a complete fiesta for them. Breakdown and coverage for Cristobal squad all day long. And now UTSA, the 112th in total defense. And the pass rush is a significant drop-off from last year because they lost a handful of guys. All top to bottom on this unit, and it's really struggling for them. They're allowing over 48% on third down. That's not a great conversion rate. But there is 4 seniors in the secondary that are capable. Nick Troy Fortune, Corey Mayfield. Obviously, they've struggled a good bit this year. But, you can't deny the veteran leadership. And you also cannot deny Middle Tennessee's offense falling last week. But I think they're going to come back down to earth a little bit in this game. UTSA, they're going to have too much offense, I think, versus this secondary of Middle Tennessee. They've not performed very well this season. They've been really stressed, and I think this is going to be an even more challenge. I don't think they can match up very well with, this 3-receiver set that they're going to roll out with. So, big win last week against Miami. That was a very shocking effort from the Hurricanes. But, in college football, you really got to take things week by week. So, I think 37-28 is appropriate. UTSA, I think, will run away with this one. Would not be shocked, though, if the Blue Raiders came out, still on their high horse from last week and put on a great showing. But I think UTSA gets the job done here when you look at the matchups. San Diego State, Boise State, 8 p.m. Eastern time on FS1. I'll keep this one short because this is just a really strange game. Both offenses ranked outside the top 115 in yards per game. San Diego State 111th in scoring offense. Boise's 107th. Boise State just fired Tim Plow, the offensive coordinator. Hank Bachmar transfers out, who wasn't really playing good anyways. The running game, their fall-off started years ago, 120 yards per game on the ground so far. George Haloney's been around a handful of years, but, it's really hard to find daylight. This offense is just really falling off a cliff, really. Ashton Gianni, the freshman, he's a playmaker for them. His production, early on in the year was pretty solid, but the past 2 weeks it kind of, came back down to earth, you could say. Only had 1 touch in the last game against UTEP, so it's a guy they need to get on the field, and they just really haven't. Taylor Green, though, showcased some good athleticism, 6'2", 220 pounds. And he's got plenty of speed. Now, I don't know if you've seen the Oregon State game. He came in there late and was kind of wheeling them back. I don't believe he hasn't seen the field since. So I'm not really sure what's going on with Boise because, they had a guy that really gave this offense a spark, and they've opted not to put him on the field one bit so since that Week 1 game. But now he's going to get to go. I called him 6'2". He's 6'6", rather, 220 pounds. Plenty of size. He's got great speed, so, some good athleticism. This is a guy that really could really take the college football world by storm. San Diego State, the QE struggles have continued. I just think this philosophy on offense, you're seeing it throughout college football like Iowa and Wisconsin. It's just not the way to go. This I formation running the football, they really need to spread things out. I thought Braxton Burmeister would be really good for this offense because they finally have a guy that can rip it and has got athleticism, but 230 yards passing has been pretty poor. They've had 3 different guys on the field at quarterback. They've combined for a 48% completion rate, 3 touchdowns, 3 picks, and a terrible 73 yards per game. That's probably worse than the service academies. That's just not good. Jesse Matthews, their top pass catcher, only 68 yards on 9 receptions. The running game's been good, though. Jordan Byrd, Jalen Armstrong, been impressive runners, 220 rush yards per game. But I like the Boise State led by Scott Matlock defensive line to stop the run. It's going to allow this defense to win with field position. And I think that, once you make this team one-dimensional, that's it. They're not going to be able to throw the ball, so it's going to be easy to load up and stop the run. In Boise State, it's been a pretty productive defense. They've had a number of guys get involved, so I do think that they're going to win the field position battle. They're going to allow them to win this game. As long as they don't turn the ball over in offense, they'll be pretty solid in winning that. Pretty confident in their ability to just stop this offense of San Diego State, every single drive. The Aztecs' defense has been good, but also they're a step behind Boise State's, I'd say. They've faced tougher competition, of course, but pass defense has been a liability. They did snag 3 picks last week to kind of offset some of the big plays they gave up. That was only a 3-point win over Toledo. Safety Patrick McMorris coming back, I believe, for this game. That should certainly provide a bit of a spark. I don't expect Boise State to attack them downfield a lot anyways. I do like Stephon Cobbs. He's a really good pass catcher. But and Latrell Caples, he's really stepped up. But this is not going to be a game that features a lot of offense. Boise State's fallen off a cliff. San Diego State has not really had an offense in years. J.L. Skinner, top-notch safety. It's going to be a great opportunity for him to showcase his run-stopping abilities. Boise State 20-13. I think they'll win the field position battle. And again, just protect the football and they'll be pretty straight. I probably won't be watching this game, but it will be a very interesting defensive battle if that's your thing. Don't expect many points. I would hammer the under in that one unless numerous amount of turnovers happen. Then that game should not see many points. Looking at the top game, Of this slate of Thursday and Friday games, Washington at UCLA, 3-point line in favor of the Huskies. 66 is the over-under. The biggest thing for Kalen DeBoer is that this offense has quickly gotten back to looking really good. Last year was a very disappointing unit, and I wasn't so sure how they would do with Michael Penix coming over because last year, coming off his ACL injury, the second one of his career, he just had no confidence. The offensive line, of course, was not very good, and just a very shot quarterback. Reuniting with DeBoer, that did wonders for him. Leads the nation right now in passing, 347 yards per game, 12 touchdowns, 1 pick. He's just been on fire. And, you knew they had a lot of depth and talent and potential wide receiver. They're starting to get everybody involved. Jalen McMillan, a team high in receptions and yards. Romeo Oduzani, he's been stepping up, 16 yards per catch for him. Jalen Polk leads the team with 4 touchdowns, 256 yards. He's got almost 20 yards per grab. Giles Jackson's been productive. And that doesn't include guys like Taj Davis. Doesn't include a guy in Taj Davis I'm a big fan of that was pretty good for them last season. So this is a deep receiving core that can accomplish a lot. Very interested to see how they do as the year progresses. I think they have a very favorable matchup here against UCLA. The running game, though, for Washington isn't anything too special, 162 yards per game. They do have 10 touchdowns. Wayne Tuapapa coming over from Virginia. He's been their lead rusher, 370 yards, about 6 yards per carry. Cameron Davis, he's been pretty productive, 4 scores, 157 yards. He's caught 5 passes. Nice little duo out of the backfield. One game has completely fallen off a cliff the last few years, so it's nice to see them get back on track there. And the offensive line's been great. And I expected that unit to be one of the nation's best last year. It was the complete opposite. They were very poor. DeBoer is starting to get the most out of these guys right now. Jackson Kirkland's return at left tackle is big for them, of course. Look at the Huskies' defense. They've been dominant against the run, only giving up 89 yards per game. They've been fine without Udwan Ulafashio at linebacker. He's one of the nation's best at his position. He's been injured since the end of August. He's expected to be back in mid-October. So if this team can go on a run here and stay undefeated, playing good defense, that's only going to do more wonders for them. Because it's given guys like Cam Bright, the Pitt transfer, and a young guy in Alfonso Tuaputala to really step up. They've been great in his absence. Braylon Trice has emerged out of nowhere off the edge, 4.5 sacks, 7.5 TFLs. And the team is third nationally in sacks right now, so they're playing great in the front seven. I still have question marks about the secondary. Alex Cook, he was one of the only notable returnees. Asa Turner as well. Athleticism will certainly be tested in the back end of this game because, of course, they lost 2 great athletes in Kyler Gordon and Trent McDuffie. The UCLA offense, as expected, they're showcasing good balance. Zach Charbonnet is phenomenal. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, what he can do as a runner and a passer, veteran that's been around a long time. Completes 75% of his balls, 8 touchdowns a pick. DTR has been phenomenal. Charbonnet, he's only played in 3 games, a little under 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, almost 7 yards per carry. They're averaging 220 on the ground. Keegan Jones has been giving them some good runs. You look at wide receiver Jake Bobo, transfer coming over. It's 15 grabs, 221 yards. The Duke transfer, 14.7 yards per catch for him. Casimir Allen, not averaging much from a yards per catch standpoint with 20 receptions. That leads the team. That was a guy you figured to step up. After that, not much. Josiah Norwood, Logan Loya, they've caught some balls, but no real difference makers right now at pass catcher for UCLA. Biggest reason why I think Washington will win this game is just the defense for UCLA. Coming into the season, I was not a fan of it one bit. They don't figure the matchup well at all. Most talented offense they faced was South Alabama, who had very good success. And I wasn't shocked because they had a handful of transfers and some good talent on that unit. And, Carter Bradley had a heck of a day. Jared Wayne was good. LaDamian Webb, he ran for a pretty good margin on them. The secondary in this game, they're going to get cooked. Depth will be tested. That's a big issue for this secondary. Latu has stepped up as a playmaker off the edge. Like Grayson Murphy, the pass rush, this is going to be an opportunity enough to really shine because I think they're going to have to do some big things for this secondary that kind of just play a good game because I think they're really going to get cooked. I don't expect them to do too well this season. Darius Mosiah, so they'll come over from Hawaii, that transfer linebacker. He's a leader for them in the middle, but I'm not a fan of this defense one bit. I'm not shocked that they played as poor as they did against South Alabama. And I think as they start the interconference play, they're going to start to get exposed a bit, giving up 400 yards in that game against South Alabama. So I think that this defense is going to get cooked. The offense, they can keep it in the game, though. 42-24 for me at home. I just think the Washington defense, this is a really good unit. I think they'll stop the run a good bit. DTR is going to be forced to make some plays. But that vertical running game is really going to test the athleticism this defense has. So big opportunity to learn a lot about both teams. I do think Washington will win this one by a healthy margin. The team's playing with a lot of confidence right now, especially on offense. And then cap things off, New Mexico and UNLV, 11 p.m. kickoff here. From Las Vegas, 14.5-point favorites are the UNLV Rebels. 43 is the over-under. Miles Kendrick for New Mexico. The Kansas transfer, only 106 pass yards per game, 20.5 points per game for this offense. The run game's had some surprising success, mainly against UTEP. I thought they ran the ball pretty well against that defensive front. But Doug Brumfeld looking good, 1,110 yards, 12 total touchdowns. Ricky White transferring over from Michigan State has done wonders for this passing game. His vertical speed, along with Kyle Williams, was already quite the talent, who was a heck of a producer last year. Running games average about 100 yards per game. Aiden Robinson, the Louisville transfer, 427 yards and 7 touchdowns. I love this offense. They have some great playmakers now. Some nice balance. Brumfield's really starting to come into his own. I think they'll win this one 38-14 pretty comfortably. Mexico, not much of a team for this season. But I like UNLV, 3-1 right now to start the year. They've had a heck of a start to the season. Should be a fun team to watch. And, hopefully they can become bowl eligible, because that's a heck of an offense. I think some people would really enjoy watching these guys play. If you're not doing anything late on Friday night, then go ahead and tune in to CBSN and check them out. That's going to be it for today's episode, guys. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.